Okay, welcome back everybody into our deep dive jumpstart on Windows Azure websites. I'm James, this is Tej.
Tejasvi, yeah,
Right.
and deep dive.
Deep dive, lots of jumping, lots of diving. We're going to be plowing through this as quick as possible. So we've had a look now of an overview of Windows Azure websites, and now we want to start to take a look at some of our tooling that we can use.
Why are tools important? Tools.
So tools are a way, when you understand the basics and the fundamentals of a certain aspect of the technology you're working with, tools just really augment your abilities, your capabilities, and they make you more productive. So we want to talk about the tools that we have, and we want to understand which ones are best used in different scenarios. So from I guess right from an intro perspective or whatever, if we could pull back up that slide deck there, and we'll have, I guess what we're going to cover in this module, some of the things that we want to talk about, the tool sets that you're going to use, and really whatever stack you're developing on, that's the framework that you're going to want to use. There's going to be a set of tools that you're familiar with. Use those ones, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Windows Azure SDK, which enables your tool sets, enables your frameworks to access other resources.
Yeah, for those who don't know, SDK is Software Development Kit.
Right.
Where developers can use pre-built libraries to access Windows Azure services.
It lets you take the framework that you're starting with and append on these additional capabilities, and so we can do that. We're going to talk about the various development environments. There are some ones that are kind of more or less native to Windows Azure websites, and we're going to cover those ones. And then for those of you who prefer alternate environments without the IDE wrapped around whatever it is you're talking to, then by all means you can drop to the cross-platform command line tools or use PowerShell inside of Windows.
Yep.
So yeah, we're starting here at this idea of let the framework decide which tool set you're going to use. And really, I guess even just pop into the next slide here, we'll talk about the frameworks that are supported. And right out of the box, in addition to ASP, we get anything that's available in the .NET stack that for anything inside of the ASP.NET stack.
There are lots of websites that still use ASP.
That's right. And this is, even if you're just trying to migrate away from legacy hardware, maybe trying to take the ASP site and push it into the cloud, maybe that's an option for you. So
and there are these COM components hanging there in those ASP sites.
Yes. And it starts to
you have to be careful.
It can start to get hairy, but yeah, absolutely. If you still develop on classic ASP, then that's possible. The ASP.NET stack itself is there in all of its glory, so you can use the MVC framework, Web API, all of those kinds of facets. But we've also got things that are off the Microsoft stack altogether. So PHP, Node.js, also Python. And really, if you can get a fast CGI handler for it or write your own, and again, we encourage you to spend time with your family, but it's conceivable that you could get pretty much any language that you've got an appropriate handler for.
So as a developer, right, which tool should I choose? I have lots of choices, but as a developer, how should I know?
Well, really, that comes back to bringing your own tools. So if you're somebody who, for example, you're familiar working with PHP inside of Eclipse, then you can get the appropriate plugins and tie that all together and make that all fit, right? You don't have to stick to the Microsoft stack if you don't want to. So bring your own tools and then use them.
It's what I'm comfortable with, right? Like
That's
Visual
right.
Studio, Web Matrix. I wrote a complete Node.js app in Web Matrix, end to end, which was so simple.
Right.
It just worked.
Excellent. So I guess let's first talk about that first kind of plugin. Now, the software development kit for Windows Azure, it's not just about Windows Azure websites. It's fairly comprehensive. It gives you access to all of the bits that you need. And it's kind of, if you want to do something beyond what's available in your native framework that you're building on, then it's kind of how you access all of those other pieces. So you want to bring that in and kind of start to...
And Windows Azure SDK basically goes beyond Windows Azure websites. So it is a software toolkit to access other services also. So when we were talking about Windows Azure websites earlier, you don't have access to file system, but you can use Windows Azure storage. Now to access that storage, you can use Windows Azure SDK, those APIs within your website. So that way, you can store your files, you can add an abstraction layer so the application thinks it's storing locally, but the files go into Windows Azure storage.
Right.
Similarly, you can connect to your applications running in your data center using Service Bus. You need Windows Azure SDK.
Exactly, and again, it's not tied to the .NET stack. So you'll find that when you log in to the port or to the Windows Azure website and just at windowsazure.com, pop into the Downloads tab, and then you can see for .NET, there's Node.js, there's all of the languages that are supported. Now for for Windows Azure websites at this time, the currently supported ones are .NET, Node.js, PHP. There's Python that's there as well, but they're continuing to work on that, and that has grown over time as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So where this is headed is basically Azure is becoming a platform like Windows Server, where you can, as long as you have the runtime, you should be able to run your application without worrying about underlying complications or underlying APIs, because there will be frameworks that run on top of the operating system, and you just have to throw your application at it and tell it, okay, run it and scale it.
Excellent. Okay, so I guess the next piece really is to start looking at the development environments that we've got. And there's kind of a couple different directions we can go with this, because there's really three solid contenders that we could use for working with. Now, again, we'll come to those contenders in a second. But one of the things that I'd like to point out is that with any environment that can be extended to support Git. So I gave that example of if somebody's got Eclipse running and they've got a PHP editor installed in Eclipse and they want to add support for publishing directly to Windows Azure, all they need to do is install a tool like eGit or something like that, and then they've got source control capabilities, which we're going to look at in even greater detail later, but that's going to be your way to proxy that in. So if you can take any environment and have it extended to support Git, that's an easy development environment that can now be used to access Windows Azure websites.
And Git is for supporting source control, right?
That's right.
So that's what Git is used for. It's a popular source control system, and you can plug it into the GitHub APIs also, right?
That's
Through
right.
The Git tool.
That's right. So you've got using Git natively right inside of Windows Azure websites, or you can use a third-party service where the Git repository is created and maintained, and then you can trigger off of service hooks into deployment and those kinds of things. So as a way to keep multiple developers in sync and using source control management tools such as GitHub or whatever tool you might want to use, that's a really easy way to extend that environment and then start using Git. Now, any environment that supports Git natively is also ready basically to talk to Windows Azure websites.
So what about the underdog?
The underdog, yeah, we've got a couple here. We've got the what I'm calling the underdog. We've got the heavyweight, and then we've got this rookie sensation. That's just
I'm eager to know who these are.
Who these are, right? So the underdog is actually Webmatrix.
Whoa.
And, because I've heard things before like, well, this is just another front page or something like that, but that's actually not the case at all. Front page. There were elements of it that people enjoyed working with or whatever, but it was doing a lot of hand waving behind the scenes, and you didn't really know what was going on. It was changing your code and all of these kinds of things. Webmatrix is not like that.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I was building a Node.js app in Webmatrix. So the NPM tool, which is the package management tool for Node.js, it's available in Webmatrix. And as a developer, I don't like command line tools. I like to work within the UI environment, within the development environment. I was really happy to see NPM there. I clicked on NPM, downloaded the Mongo client package, and started developing against MongoDB right within Webmatrix. And I didn't have to go to Visual Studio or any other tool. So that's why this is underdog, I guess.
Right.
So people don't know about it.
Right, and however, it's super easy to get at. As you can see from the slide, it's it's in the command bar of every Windows Azure website where you don't have source control management tied in already. So it's very easy to get to and just download directly from the portal. Spin it up, have a look at your site. You can even use it through source control management, so it does have that native source control management support as well. So lots of great flexibility there, and it's very context specific, right? It's whereas you've got something like Visual Studio, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here, which does everything. You can build DLLs, and you can there's just Windows Phone apps and Windows 8 apps and all of those other really good things. This just really focuses on the web development experience.
Yeah, let's look at it. Let's show our users.
Okay, excellent. So I have I'm just going to pull up a site that I've created here. It's just a simple Node website, and you can see I've just deployed it from a template using a blank. Or the simple Node template, I guess. I'm going to just really quickly browse to my app here. So this is the URL that we're going to pull up.
Okay.
And here we go. There's my home page. It's my Node home page. You can see to learn more about Node.js and et cetera, et cetera. So this is just that stock one that's right out of the templates there that you can install. And down here I've got my Webmatrix link at the bottom of the toolbar. So whenever I'm on the dashboard of whichever website I'm looking at here in the portal, I can just click on this web matrix link, and it's going to actually pop open and make sure the install's there, install it if it needs to, and then I've got this option to edit the live site directly.
Live, there we go again.
We're danger zone here. I just want to remember that we want to make sure that we're not necessarily doing that. So, and we've got some strategies for that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, just free form over the live site. I'm going to do that right now. We'll have a look at it right now, and then we can have a look at how easy it is to publish here. So it's actually, you can see it all, everything that's in here already. I'm going to just go into my
So this is the standard structure for a Node.js website.
Right, that starter site that they've got, and it says modify this template to jumpstart your Node.js application. My Node.js application, or Express application, has been modified.
And Express is a template engine.
That's right.
In Node.js, and Jade is an MVC-like framework in Node.js. So if you see files with extension .jade, that's the MVC framework.
Okay.
And then Express is a site template.
So all I need to do now, after I've made this change, I'm just going to save this guy and
Saving it live.
Saving it live, and we're going to give her a run again.
And running it live.
Simple Node, Azure Websites.net, and Node.js Express application has been modified. So there we go. Now, just to, again, it's
that was a developer-like comment. Yeah, I would put like welcome or something.
Okay, right. Yeah. Make it more user-friendly and publish it kind of thing, right?
It's okay. It's all good.
There's some great things that are going on inside of here, though. You can see we've got syntax highlighting, we've got block collapsing going on. So there's these wonderful. Oh, sure. Sorry, I'm just making sure we're zooming in here so you can see things that are going on. I'll go full screen here so we've got a little more real estate. This is basically, we've got the structure of the page, and using the Jade View Engine, we get these kind of, just uses an indentation as a convention, and gives us a way to really quickly map a page out. So a lot of shorthand stuff going on here. For those of you familiar working inside of Jade, this is going to be seem very familiar to you, but you can see you've got this rich experience for development. There's extensions inside of here, so there are some extensibility points. We can also go in and do some managing on your. It'll pop you back in and back out to the portal, so you can be working on the inside of Web Matrix without the portal, connect to that live site, and then jump in and start doing some management as well.
And you can also attach source control into Web Matrix.
That's right,
so
exactly.
Like GitHub as well as Visual Studio Online.
Exactly. So, and we'll actually have a look at that in a little bit too as we kind of work through this. So, let's pop back to the slide deck there, I think, and have a look. So, Web Matrix as an easy place to start. Now we're talking about the heavyweight here. This is the bread and butter of most .NET developers. Visual Studio 2013 is out. There's so many enhancements, and if you use some of the, like for example, the web extensions plugin, we'll talk about extensibility in a second, but it is extensible, and there's a lot of features that are already there. There's great tools that you've got, for example, browser link and support for all of the common current HTML platform type things that you want to work off of, jQuery, the JavaScript support, those kinds of things. That's all there. So it's very well suited for high-end professional development with lots of access, a mature, stable IDE, and all those things.
Let's say I'm a new developer and I come to you and ask you, I want to build a Windows Phone app and a Windows Store app, and which talks to a web service. So what would you recommend?
Well, and in that case, Visual Studio is the best bet, because you've got the ability to, in one single solution, create these different target client applications, as well as build the server backend, and you get the integrated source control management, the easy plug into Windows Azure website, so deployment becomes super easy as well. So there's the wonderful tools that tie into that, and there's also the extensibility aspect of it as well, right? So I think on the next slide there we actually talk about the different kinds of extension points, and really we've got the ability to not only use the .NET languages, but any language that has plugin capabilities, support can be added there as well. Highly extensible. It's got NuGet support, which is native to Visual Visual Studio, and there's those great extensions that can help you make you even more productive and keep you up to date with all of the tooling.
And what does productivity translate to in our world?
Profits, money.
And you forgot my favorite point.
Oh, family time.
Yeah, exactly.
Family time is more important than profit and money. I want to make that clear right now. Hi, honey. She's watching for sure. And
people first, then money, then things. Right?
Exactly.
Susie Orman.
Exactly. Okay, so I guess let's have a look at some of the stuff that Visual Studio gives us here. So pop into everyone's favorite heavyweight. And I'm going to just pop in here for something that I've already got scaffolded out. And we'll have a look at this site here. You can see I've got common things like I'm accessing app settings. And this is just a standard. There's an API project here and then a Windows 8 project. So you can see I've got that mixed solution kind of idea where I've got different client platforms. There's also, in my API project, there's an MVC site. So, really, I've got a whole kit and caboodle here. And I'm doing more than just the website itself. There's a lot more going on.
So what does the website do exactly
so
at a higher level?
In this particular case, I won't go too deep into it just yet. We're going to have a look at this as part of our lightning round. But in this particular one, there's a web API that sits in the background. Okay. There's some web interface that allows you to manage some data in a database that's stored in a SQL Windows Azure SQL database. And then finally, there's a Windows 8 client that consumes the API, allows you to create new entries in the database, post those back, and it even supports the Windows Azure notification services, so you can actually notify your clients when things are happening inside of this database.
And Web API is basically ASP.NET's web services engine for building REST APIs and different kinds of APIs on top of your data layer.
Right, and I guess having a RESTful API is something that is, we would debate whether or not everything that is, supports the HTTP protocol is REST-based or not, but it certainly facilitates it for you and lets you build HTTP endpoints that you can access. And if you're doing the RESTful things, then absolutely you get kind of a RESTful solution. Okay, so
let's dive in.
Yeah, let's have a look here and have a look at some of what's going on inside of the IDE. So a couple of things are hidden on me here. I'm just going to pop into my Server Explorer, and you can see here that because I've installed that Windows Azure SDK, I get this new node inside of the Server Explorer tree that says Windows Azure. And I think I should be able to log in just a little bit here. We'll try this out here. And
you need subscription to log in.
Yeah, so after you try and drill into anything inside of this Windows Azure node, it's going to say, hey, who are you? I need to know who you are. And then it plugs in to your Azure subscription, and it'll let you now start to manage some of those services.
Right from within Visual Studio.
That's right. And this is the one that's important here is that we're talking about today is this idea of websites. And you can, it actually just did a little authentication thing for me, but because it saved my credentials, it's just popping me right back in. And you can see right away here that there's this customer API one that I'm already running, and I can right-click on it, and I get some additional things that I can do here. So I can refresh the node if I wanted to. I can stop or restart the website itself. All of the things that a developer might think have been taken away from you when you're working on a platform as a service, they're re-exposed through the API. Yeah. And then when you install the SDK, it extends Visual Studio to call into that API and give you back those powers that you lose when you're not in charge of IIS anymore. Mm-hmm. We get to attach a debugger. We can view streaming logs in the output window, and we've got a sample of that we're going to show later as well. So really, this is a nice way to tie right in. As well, there's another interface here that I can dive into, and I can say publish the customer API. Now, whether or not you've installed the Azure SDK, this publish capability is going to be there. You can go to the file system, you can use web deploy, whatever the case may be. And in fact, if through the publishing process, you have, I've got this one already configured. So I've got a profile here which allows me to, for example, dive in and pick the appropriate publishing settings that I want. And this is from a Windows Azure website that I've already got. But I could also create a new one. I could create a new website here, provision the site, set up a database server, already set up those connections and those connection strings and those kinds of things, all from right inside of Visual Studio.
So you don't need to go to the portal for this.
That's right. So if you are already, if you start your day with Visual Studio, and you're doing from the start of the day, you've got your coffee in one hand and Visual Studio in the other hand, this is all you need to do. You don't actually need to go into the portal. So in this case, I've already got it set up, so I'm not going to import a new one. But there's my profile. It shows me my connection. It lets me lets me test and validate my connection as I go. And then I can modify any of the settings on the fly. Sorry, just floating around here really quick. I'll be back out a second here. You can change any of the settings that you want. Pick your there's some things that you can override and change on the target, as well as setting up any. It pulls out the connection strings that you've identified inside of your web config file, and it'll allow you to pick a connection string from the remote. So basically what we're talking about here, you've got a Windows Azure SQL database up and running in the cloud, and now you want to have it connected to your website. With that in place already, you've got connection strings that you've configured up on your website, and now you want to be able to override that inside of this project. So whatever you're using locally can be overridden on the tail end of that. We've got a configuration module that we're going to be talking about and diving into what it means to help to change all of these settings and address them inside of the portal.
So basically, configuration settings in the portal takes precedence over configuration settings in web.config.
That's right. Exactly. And Visual Studio is smart enough to go and look at, to pull down through the API, the connection strings that you've already got saved in the portal, and then direct the deployment process to overwrite your local connection strings with the ones that you need to work in the cloud. So really powerful tool here, and you can see I've already got one set up inside of the website that I've pushed out there, and it's the Customer API DB. So from that point, I just hit publish, and away we go. The site is up and running. It goes through, and I think I'm safe to publish this one, so I'll do that now. And you can see here, it basically does your build for you. It collects all of the assets that it needs. If there are ACL requirements that need to be sent, then they send those up to the server as well for accessing databases and things like that. All of that stuff is set up, and then your site is up and running out in the cloud. So
it even starts the browser for you.
It starts the browser for you as well to say, see, it worked. It did. Really, it did. Okay, so a lot of great stuff inside of Visual Studio here as well, but it's not the only place that you can actually edit your site. There's still one other one here that we want to talk about, and this is the Underdog. It's the one new. We'll pop back into our slide deck there, and we'll see the kind of the idea here. It's Monaco. It's codename Monaco. Visual Studio Online codename Monaco, and it's new, right? It's just recently released and already pretty powerful. It's a development environment that's entirely written in TypeScript, so ultimately JavaScript.
And it's in preview mode.
It's in
right now.
It's in preview mode.
It's not in production.
However, it's a really great way for you to really quickly get in and start editing your site. And I've got on here that the Visual Studio Online as a whole service, which includes source control management and all those kinds of things, that's free for up to 5 developers. So if you're a startup or if you're a single developer and you're working on well, if you're a single developer, you might be working on a dating site. But if you're just a single developer working on an application, then this is a great environment to get going in. And you can use the free version of Visual Studio. But if something comes up and you're spending family time on vacation, so you haven't brought your laptop, but there's an urgent issue that comes up and you get a text message that something's gone wrong on the website and you want to fix it, you can just jump into any browser in the portal or jump into the Windows Azure website's portal, pick your website, and then start editing it from right inside of the portal.
Within the portal. Yeah.
From within the portal. So I'm going to pop back into the Windows Azure portal here and just drill into a site. I'll just have to find a site really quickly here that's got it. So I've got this Node ABCs site that I've got, and you can see there's some traffic and some activity here. I'm going to go to Edit in Visual Studio Online, and you can see it's got the preview there. They're just letting you know. So it might be kind of there might be some bugs. There might be some as they're improving and features are changing. So you can expect that things will move around.
We have befriended demo demons, so
right,
don't
exactly.
worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, I have to punch in my deployment credentials, and these credentials are used for wherever when you set up those deployment credentials. It's for everything inside your subscription. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to share these. You actually want to add different people who can manage your subscription, but don't give them your credentials because then they can do everything.
Unless you're building the PHP starter kit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You are the developer of the PHP starter kit.
Right. Exactly. Right. So I'm just going to punch in my credentials here and pop in. And now it flips me back over to this site here. And I'm going to just show you guys what's going on, because this exists actually for everybody. So I have this Node-ABC's website, and that's this URL right here. and it's at at azurewebsites.net. But there's additional little host token that's plopped in there called SCM, and I'm getting this /dev www routes tasklist.js. So I'm actually editing a file on the file system inside of this Visual Studio experience that's just hosted and completely available through.
And this is on the live site.
This is on the live site.
Yeah,
so let's consider what we're talking about here. And I said, it's great as a workbench kind of concept because you've got this, maybe you have Visual Studio Online running, you've got your project under source control. Well, you don't want to necessarily go in and start editing your actual live production website, but websites, you can have a free instance of a website, right? Yep. So why not set up a workbench while you're trying to address this problem? Pull your source code in from by associating to Visual Studio Online. Pull the source code in, make your changes that you need to, and then republish. Test in this isolated environment. Then publish it back up to the main one. Check in your work. You get that build going. It goes to the production site, and then without having your laptop on vacation, you're back to family time.
Exactly. So let's say you have a surface on your vacation, and you are sitting in a train or a beach, and an issue pops up. So you can open up your surface. Go to the web browser, Visual Studio Online, fix the bug, push it, let the release team handle the rest of it.
Exactly, right? And you can see
you
here,
are back on your vacation and don't have to be stressed about whether a particular thing is fixed or not.
Right. And now back into the environment, you can see I've got my cursor hovered over some of this green text here, and it's saying, hey, you didn't put a semicolon there. So it's giving me like feedback. There's like IntelliSense. It knows things, and right here it's saying, well, I could not find a symbol for module. But in cases where you've included scripts and it doesn't exactly work here. In this particular case, we're working with Node, and it's not familiar with that exports kind of notation to get the task list available to the application. But this is it's got this intelligent, and still it says, missing another semicolon, et cetera, et cetera. I'm basically building up an object here in this script, and it's able to help me out with IntelliSense, and it's got Mongoose Connect, right? So, well, now I can go inside of here and, here, let me pull that back out. Where available, it'll actually let me punch in. In this case, it wasn't able to pick it up, but it'll do its best to give me as much help as possible.
Yeah, just for our viewers, so this is in the browser and not on the desktop.
Right, absolutely. You can see I am in IE here. I can pop into my home page. I've got my tabs up at the top. So this is part of the browser. We're not going anywhere outside of here. Likewise, we can drill in. There's just a ton of other features here. We can search our project. We can establish a connection with our a Git deployment host or SCM for publishing. I can show output, open a console. So I get this console that I can interact with as well. And you can see that I've actually got access to a bit of a console-y kind of shell thing or whatever. Gives you control space. So it's giving you actually IntelliSense on the command line as well.
So it's LS, huh? LS.
Yeah. So it'll tell you directory browsing, right? It'll tell you how to use the command line. So this is great for people who have always developed inside of Windows if they're needing to go in, and lots of help, and so that's great as well. My whole project folder is here as well. Anything that's in my project is available to edit here. So
did you build this from scratch in Monaco, or you built it somewhere and then you're editing it in Monaco?
In this particular case, I had it already built, and then I've enabled Visual Studio Editing Online, and I was able then to just jump in and start editing this code. Okay. So I said I enabled it. It's in preview mode, so it's not available on all websites. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard here, and I'll show you how we actually turn that on. This is under that configure, the configure bits here, and when we drill into there, we have to go and turn on this little switch that says Visual Studio Online. So I just hit Control F there, and I'm going to search for online.
Also, let me warn you, every time you log into this portal, this page is going to change. So don't be surprised that someone else's page is different than your page. Right?
Exactly.
Because new features are getting added, new features are being enabled.
Where is it? There we go. Online. There's the setting here. So it's inside of the general settings. So it's right up at the top. That's why I kind of blew right by it. And it says, it's giving you this saying, basically letting you turn it on. And it's also giving you this warning. And it's telling you, hey, you've got source control set up on this. If somebody else goes and publishes their changes, if they push their changes to source control, anything that you edit in Visual Studio Online is going to get overwritten. So it's even got a warning there to help keep you sane and make sure you know what's going on as you get in there. So that's how you turn it on. That's how you work with it inside of Monaco in the browser. What else? Is there anything else that we should probably mention here? I guess. Oh, right. So you've got the ability. If we had, in this particular case, I don't have it set up. I don't have it tied to GitHub. But if we had it set up, we'd actually be able to switch branches as well. So it's got branch support as well. So if you wanted to spin up an alternate branch, do your changes there, and then work off of that one, then you could do that as well. Because although, again, you are editing the live site, so whatever changes you make, even if you're on a different branch, you're editing the files on the file system. And because you're not tied yet in this particular setup that I'm in, because you're not tied to SCM, it's still going to overwrite any changes that are checked in elsewhere. And you could start to get kind of confused there. So just watch how you use it.
And let's say for developers who are familiar with command line tools, so what's in it for them?
So command line tools, you're not left in the dark. If you go to that download page again, let's actually pull up the slide deck and we'll have a look at some of what's available. So plowing in, we've got two options really. It doesn't matter if you're on Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever it is. We've got the command line tools that'll work anywhere. We've also got the PowerShell option as well. So driving into that portal, we're going to go to the downloads link, and then we're going to go into the command line tools, and then you're going to see all of the options that you've got just by clicking into that. We've got downloads for Windows, we've got downloads for Mac, we've got downloads for Linux, and whichever approach you take, you're going to be able to put them in your environment and then kind of light things up. So that said, let's have a look at
Dive in.
Yeah, let's have a look at what we're actually doing here and what might happen. So I'm a big fan of PowerShell, so I like working on the console. So that's one of the differences.
This is ShellPoint. I call it ShellPoint. PowerShell in PowerPoint.
Got you, ShellPoint. Yeah. So so we're writing code in PowerPoint. Here's a simple example where if you've got, as part of your automation process, you've downloaded the Azure SDK, you've downloaded the PowerShell commandlets for Windows Azure. You've also associated your subscription with PowerShell on your machine. And from that point forward, you can now start to just issue commands against Windows Azure. So here what I'm doing in PowerShell is I'm actually getting a list of all of the websites. I'm filtering for the ones that match a specific pattern, i.e. in this particular case, acceptance test, and then I restart them all. So maybe I've got, however you want to approach it, if you've got a staging environment where you're running acceptance tests, this is a really easy way, just 3 lines of code, basically, and you can restart all of your acceptance test servers.
Chaos Monkey. Right?
Exactly,
right there.
This
2
is
lines of code.
3 lines of code, Chaos Monkey.
Chaos
so
Monkey
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can keep moving. We've got some more samples as well. One of them is you've got a GitHub repository on your machine. You basically just run this and pass in the name, the full path that you want to actually push out there. So you've got a GitHub repo, all of your source controls in there, you've got your project in there, your solution in there, and now you say, I want to make this into a website. I don't care what the website name is, I just want to create something random. So this creates a GUID, so just a big long string of text and numbers, and then it'll actually move us into the path that you specify. So that's the file system path where you've got your repo located. And then it's actually going to wire up in the next line there. It'll wire up the website. It'll actually create that website with the GUID as the host name. And you can see there we've got the site name as the passed in as that GUID there. Mm-hmm. We've constructed the site name up in that earlier in that script. And then we're going to say, hey, you're enabling it. I want to enable it with this GitHub deployment. So I've already got this GitHub repo, associate it here, automatically make that association with me. And all of a sudden it's now watching that repo. As long as there's content in that repo, it's going to pull that down, do a minimal build for us, so our project will compile. It's going to deploy it. And then the last line here that we're doing is actually returning to wherever you were on your command line.
Push and pop, it's like a stack.
That's right, exactly. So we're pushing wherever you are, so you can be anywhere in your operating system. This one just says, okay, well, where's the repo? It switches over there, pushes out to the cloud, creates the site for you, and then finally even opens it up in a browser. So the last one, I've got pause for dramatic effect in there, but really what we're doing is we're just waiting for it to build and deploy. That deployment will be created easily within 30 seconds.
Because it takes some time, and then you wait for it.
And I say
you can also use the API to check
That's
Because
right.
behind the scenes, the PowerShells use the service management API. Azure has a service management API available as REST service. You can build your own PowerShell scripts or your own .NET tools or tools in any language to talk to services available in Windows Azure. So you can create your own websites, bring it down, bring it up, delete them, FTP your websites to them. All this is available using the Service Management API.
Right, and this Service Management API isn't just limited to PowerShell. When you've installed those, the XPlat tools, you get this everywhere. So you can do this from Linux, you can do it from Mac, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to look a little different because it's not PowerShell, and how you script it together is going to be up to you. But all of the management aspects of the API for Windows Azure completely available to you. Okay, so here's an example, moving along here, the ability to actually create some settings and push those up. So in that automated example, if you need to have a list of fruit that's available on your website for some reason, then you simply compose the string, put it together in a settings variable, and then push those settings up to the name of your website. So there's one more line of code there that we need, and that's basically we're setting a property on Windows Azure websites. The website that we're doing is your website. Now, whatever the name is, right, in the portal, right? You already know what it is. In the case before, it was that GUID that we were using. So you could extend that and actually say, okay, well, after you've done this deployment, I want to push these settings up as well. And this is how you would do that. You create the settings and then
and
push
these
them
can
up.
be database connection strings. Right?
Absolutely.
It can be anything specific to your application.
Absolutely. So, and then the connection strings, there's the different types that are supported. So there's SQL, there's the MySQL option as well. MongoDB can be implemented. All those kinds of things. You can set those all up as custom connection strings or as the ones that are supported by default.
And so these PowerShell scripts, are they available out of the box, or you have created those? Or
Yeah, I've created these ones. These ones are actually in my book, so they're available as well. So you can pop into Amazon and find just James Chambers Windows Azure websites, and that'll be there. And all these script samples are in there as well. But I'll also make it available on my blog afterwards and link into those, and you'll be able to jump in and share those. So moving along, you've realized you've pushed out, and you realize that you've actually forgot one setting, and so we're going to add that now. We're going to add tomatoes as the worst fruit. So all we're going to do is go and get that settings object, and it's the key value pairs. So we're going to add another one called worst fruit tomatoes, and we're going to push that back up. And then we realize that we made a mistake. Tomatoes aren't the worst fruit; it's dried prunes. So we're going to.
I like dried prunes.
Well,
I like prunes.
That's okay. Go with mangoes though. Or something. I don't know. Just not in the dried prunes. Stay with. I love tomatoes, so I have to correct it. So I just pull the settings down again, and then rather than adding one, I can actually set the property in that key value pair collection, and then push it back up to Azure websites, and then all of that works.
Yeah, so the point is, it's your setting. It's for your website. You can set to whatever you want. Right?
Absolutely.
So these PowerShell scripts help you do that.
That's right. And again, these are just a starting point. You can really, anything that's available through the API, go ahead and have a look. And actually in the PowerShell administrative console, you can pull up and write scripts and all those kinds of things. You get IntelliSense over all of those commandlets as well. So you get the tab completion and those kinds of things. So it makes it very easy. It's very discoverable to get in there and work with some of those commands. So definitely dive in, check it out, have a look. Yep. So okay, so we're coming to the end of this one already here, right? We talked about the frameworks that are available. We've said bring your own tools. It doesn't matter if you are somebody who loves working inside of the command line using Vi to edit and you're using Git to push up your site to Windows Azure. You can use Node.js inside of WebMatrix, or you can edit a classic ASP site using Visual Studio, the online Monaco preview that they've got. So there's all kinds of environments.
And your cloud platform is only as good as your tools. If you don't have the right tools for the developers, you cannot really enjoy the cloud platform. You cannot have productivity within the platform, right? So you want developers to build applications and services faster on your platform. And the tools that are provided by Microsoft, Visual Studio, WebMatrix, and you can bring your own tools, even the new ones like Monaco, you can pretty much quickly edit it, start simple, code smart, go live.
Right, and going back to those tenets that we've talked about already, use the things that are going to make you productive, and then happy coding, right? Yep. Okay, well, that pretty much wraps up what we wanted to talk about as far as the tool set goes. We're going to take another 10-minute break here, reset, get ready for some more demos, and talk about automating your source control deployments and working with automating your deployments altogether. So
stay tuned. We have a lot to go.
A lot more to cover. Thanks very much. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
All right. See you.